How you show up to your custody evaluation appointment is another look at who you are in that evaluator's eyes. Hi, I'm Reneé Rodriguez, and I have been helping people prepare for their custody evaluations for over 10 years to great success. Let's talk today about what you need to do as you're showing up for your custody evaluation interviews. If you are driving to your interview, you want to make sure that as soon as you pull into that parking lot, that you should just assume that there's a possibility that there is a camera facing that parking lot and observing people as they come out. So the minute you pull in, you should pretty much assume that this might be part of what they are using to judge who you are and how you are. So you want to show up with a clean car. When you get out, you want to look organized. You don't want to be dropping things all over the place or anything like that. You want it to be a nice, clean leaving the car. You walk in, and you do want to arrive about 15 minutes early. Now, I have heard so many evaluators, therapists, and lawyers talk about the fact that you should absolutely assume that the waiting room is being recorded, that there is a camera somewhere to the waiting room. Now, there are various reasons for this. Certainly, part of it is to see how you are and who you are in the waiting room as well, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the other reason could be for safety. As many of you know, if you are the survivor parent, a lot of these co-parents can be covertly abusive and covertly narcissistic, but there are others who are overtly so, unapologetic about it, and just dangerous people. So the question becomes, well, then why are they allowed to be part of an evaluation? Well, for those of you who are watching this video, you've probably already got it figured out that as long as you're a parent of a child, you have the right to fight for custody. And so while safety measures are often put into place, especially if they are asked for the most part, the assumption is that the evaluator can go about doing business as usual. It is very infrequent that both parents are scheduled for the same day for this very reason as well. Also to give the evaluator space between the two parents. Now, when you show up and you're in that waiting room, there's a couple of possibilities if they don't take you on time. The first possibility is that you've barely sat down, you're 15 minutes early, and yet the door opens up and they say, come on in. That can be very discombobulating unless you are prepared for it. So just simply understand that it could be that as soon as you park yourself in a seat, that they're going to call you in. Make sure that you are still gracious and that you look ever ready, just like a capable and fit parent. You can take anything, doesn't matter, right? Same thing with if they let you sit there for a long time. And I have certainly heard from evaluators who have said they do that on purpose to see if there are any anger issues with not being taken on time. So it's really crucial that there is some extra space put in your calendar for after an interview in case it does start late, whether on purpose or by accident, and in case that meeting goes long anyway. But when you're first showing up in that waiting room, if they take you late, very late, egregiously late, you need to be gracious in spite of anything. You can certainly let them know, I need to pick up my child at this time, but otherwise I'm totally fine. But you want to do it with grace. You want to do it with patience. And then when you go in, you don't want to feel discombobulated. Now, that is something where it can be tricky. You've been sitting there for a very long time. Your nerves might be where they are. So you need to find a way to make sure that your nerves are okay, right? It could be something where you have crystals with you, you're rubbing on a stone, you're working on acupressure points, you've got a book that you're reading, you stretch out your legs, whatever it is that makes it so that you can remain calm and in control even when they are running very late, so that when they do open that door and welcome you in, that you are gracious and you come in and you're ready to go as if they had let you in right on time. Now, what if you are doing a joint session with your co-parent so you are there at the same time? Now, this would happen if they've established that there's no fear of danger, there's no fear of physical attack, and you are both going to be in the meeting at the same time, and the evaluator is going to be talking to the two of you sitting in the same room together. When you arrive in the waiting room, first of all, it would be great if you could get there first, but not inordinately so. So it would be good to get there about 20 minutes early, no later than 15 minutes early. Be there and have something to do that will take your attention. Now, a word about what you're doing in the waiting room while you wait. I am a huge fan of staying off of screens. Being on screens all the time is an accusation that gets thrown at protective parents in order to make them look bad. So it's my suggestion that when that evaluator opens the door and looks at you and says it's time for you to come in, that you are not looking at screens, but instead that you have a book or a notebook that you're writing in, some work papers that are neat and easy to quickly close and put away and move forward into the room. Anything that will make it look like you are not addicted to screens, that any narrative about you being addicted to screens is not something they're seeing, at least. If your co-parent is there first, it's important for you to determine where is it that you want to sit. It does not make sense to sit right next to them. Some people have wondered if that makes it feel like they're more collaborative, but it doesn't. It's not a very genuine thing to do. So it's better to find a place that's not so far off, not going to the opposite end of the waiting room, because they're looking at that as well, but being somewhere nearby, right, in the waiting room. Now, when you go into the room for a joint session, try to be the one to go in first. This is a lot easier if you're female because many societies believe that a male should hold the door open for a female, and that is a common practice. So if you're female, this is easier to go in first, but it's not a guarantee, I'll tell you that. So when you go into the room, many of these rooms, but not all, but many of these rooms will have a couch and 2 armchairs, and it may or may not be obvious as to which armchair the evaluator plans to sit in. It is my strongest recommendation that the healthier parent should choose to sit on one end of the couch, leaving room for the other parent to sit beside them. I'm not saying you should hug the couch arm. You should just find a place to comfortably sit on one side of the couch so that there's room for the other parent to sit there. The reason for this is that most of the time, an abusive parent will choose to sit on a completely different piece of furniture, even when there is room for them to sit next to their co-parent. And that is something that the evaluator is observing. Now, if your co-parent goes in first and they sit on one side of the couch, if you are the healthier parent, then probably you're wondering, well, what do I do here? I don't want to be around this abuser, but I also want to look collaborative. It's probably easier, interestingly enough, for a survivor to sit beside them. They've been doing it for years, after all. I think it's important for every survivor parent to decide if they want to sit next to their abuser. For many survivors, they want to go to a separate piece of furniture, of course. For a lot of survivors, they're so used to being close to their abusive co-parent that they may as well sit next to them to at least make a show of how they are the one who tries to be collaborative in spite of their co-parent's troubling personality. So that's something to kind of decide, but it is something that certainly they are looking at. So what is somebody to do if they say, I don't want to sit next to my abuser, I left them, I don't want to be next to them anymore? Then I think it's important that if you are sitting in a different piece of furniture, that you are still angled toward them versus away from them. If you cross your legs, make sure that top foot is facing toward them and not away from them. You want to look open to the room. You want to look open to everybody in the room, including your abusive co-parent. So consider when you walk into that room, how can you still look open and accessible? How can you look like someone who is willing to work with your co-parent, even though it's clear to everyone involved that the two of you don't get along? Else, why would you be in that room for the evaluation? All right, so these are some of the things you need to think about when you are arriving and showing up for the beginning of your custody evaluation interview. Once you get in there, the last thing I would say is, have a bottle of water with you. If you want to take notes, just ask them if it's okay if you do so. Make that all neat and easy. Just a tote bag where you can pull things out. Not a lot of zippers and compartments, etc., but something where it's pretty much just one move, like a little, in real life, one-click event where you can grab that notebook or put it back, grab a bottle of water, and slip it right back in. All right. If you want to have full and utter preparation for this ever so crucial custody evaluation, join our eval prep incubator. You can see that link below, or see if you can work with me. I'm at thecustodyblueprint.com. That is where you can start, and you can learn more about how to get yourself as fully prepared as you can for this custody evaluation. See you on the other side.